Pull lines is pretty simple, but yeah, it's the most basic thing we do, and some guys are not good at it. The more you train, the quicker you become. How quick can you deploy a line? How quick can you get off the truck and tag a hydrant? How long does it take to set the aerial up?
From Los Angeles, this is Code 3, the Firefighters Podcast, hosted by award-winning journalist Scott Orr. Code 3 features interviews with leading members of the fire service, discussing firefighting strategy, tactics, and other topics you need to know more about. Now, here's Scott.
That's right, and I will not let Parkinson's stop me. Thank you for joining me on another edition of Code 3. You are listening to the show for and about firefighters. Now let's get started. Every house goes on runs that the crew just knows is a false alarm. You know it, I know it, your administration knows it. But the public doesn't, and when you pull up to that alarm you're sure is nothing and you act like it's nothing, they notice. My guest today says perception is reality, and that sends the wrong message, especially with instant online video. But even more important, when you act like it's a false alarm, you miss a chance to develop habits and muscle memory. Ty Wheeler says every fire alarm can be an opportunity. He advocates an approach called lines off, ladders up. Ty is a lieutenant with the Johnston-Grimes, Iowa Metropolitan Fire District. He has more than 10 years service. Ty has a managing officer certificate from the National Fire Academy, and he's a member of the Iowa Society of Fire Service Instructors. He's also the president of the Des Moines Area Metro chapter of F.O.O.L.S. Yep, that spells DAMFOOLS. And he's co-owner of Rogue Training Consulting. And Ty Wheeler joins me now. Welcome to Code 3.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you having me on.
Let me start with what I think is going to be the major objection to this concept. It seems like it wastes time. If you're on an investigation call and it turns out to be nothing, you can get back into service a lot faster if the gear is still on the rig.
I understand that, priorities are to get back in service. But the main thing that we want to try to instill in our guys is every chance we get is an opportunity to train and to get better at our job, because we never know when that next strike is going to be of the alarm. And if we're able to address some of the obstacles that we normally see on calls and on scenes and things, we're going to be that much better and prepared when the actual incident does arise. I agree, it does take us out of service a little bit longer, but the benefit is astronomical when we can utilize that and see that firsthand on the actual incident if we've implemented this process.
Now, you call it lines off, ladders up. When you say lines off, are you actually talking about pulling a line, getting it up to the door or something like that?
Yeah, so we do this, and this isn't something that we do on every single call by any means. We usually have typical alarm trips at very common places that everybody has. You have those demons and those fire alarms. But when we do go to a new place, we will take the opportunity to use this. And it may be stretching an 1.5 inch or 1 3/4 line that we have. Otherwise, I carry a 200-foot rope bag that we can clip onto the truck and estimate our stretch that way. It's not always pulling a line because that does take a lot of time to re-rack, and there could be damage with it. If you're pulling it, a third floor of an apartment building, that can come with some damage and some obstacles. But, understanding and estimating stretches is an important aspect of our job. So we utilize a few different avenues to get that done.
Well, you just mentioned there are certain buildings known for being problem children when it comes to alarms. How do you motivate a crew to treat them as if they're an actual fire when they know it's likely to be a false alarm?
That's difficult. We run into that mindset quite a bit. We go shift after shift, maybe run the same calls 1 or 2 times, 3 times in a day. But just, I think, understanding and having that culture of this could be an actual fire, and we don't want to get caught off guard. If we roll up to a incident and we're not ready, our gear's not on, our coat's not zipped up, what is that going to look like? Is that going to cost us time? Is that going to cost, the occupant their life or their property? So I think just instilling that mindset into our firefighters that every chance that we have to train is going to be an opportunity we can grow and learn. And we don't know when that fire alarm is actually going to turn into, the real deal. We've had several where we get dropped on an alarm and it turns out to be the fire. Well, what does that say to our citizens when they're sitting there watching us, especially on apartment buildings where there's a lot of people sitting outside? We roll up with no gear on or not ready. What is their perception? Because the perception is reality in today's fire service.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask, how important is the public's reaction to seeing a lackluster response on a call that's likely to be nothing? They don't know it's going to be nothing, but if the crew responding treats it like that, what's the public's reaction going to be like?
Yeah, I think a new trend in the fire service, we're trying to be, more aware of cancer and things like that, and taking our gear off the trucks. There's some departments that aren't even wearing PPE to fire alarms, like no gear at all. The fire alarms are showing up in their uniform. And I think that sends a bad message. I think it shows that, number one, we don't prioritize their calls, that it's important. And most importantly, if we do roll up and it is an actual structure fire, what is their perception? Is it we don't care, we're not ready, we're not professional, we're not there to get the job done in a quick and efficient manner? So I think that can be pretty negative. Everybody sees the videos on Facebook, YouTube, and sites like that where, what are these guys doing? They're showing up without any gear on. They don't know the circumstances. The citizens doesn't know that, hey, we've been to this apartment building, or we've been to this business 3 times in the last week for repeated fire alarms. They don't know that. So I think we, as a public service entity, I think we need to show up all the time and make sure that, we're just not looking the part, we're doing the part, but showing the citizens that we are actually take every call seriously no matter what. And it's in their best interest and our best interest to show up ready to do the job.
So what's your experience in asking crews to respond this way been like?
It's been hit or miss. Like I said, we don't do it all the time. Obviously, up in Iowa, it's a little bit of a winter. So, wintertime, we really don't do this much. But when it's nice out, when it's summer out, I do try to encourage our guys to do this a lot. And it may not just be pulling lines, throwing ladders, things like that. It is talking about what is our tactic. It's just that frame of mindset of, when we're going to a call, what can we do to be successful? How are we going to make a difference if this is on fire? Spotting hydrants, I'm pretty vocal with my driver. Say, hey, this is what's going on. We have 2 alarm drops, first floor pull section, our pull station. Maybe we do have a smoke alarm that activated as well. First hydrant is located here, second's here. We're pre-planning, not just, okay, what is our stretch? Can our ladders reach? Can we throw ladders? But what is our strategy and tactics overall? And usually that sparks good conversations. You're always going to have those people in the fire service that don't want to. They don't want to be active. But, it's me as an officer, it's my job to make sure that we are. And if I fail to perpetuate that thinking and that proactiveness, then, we fail as a crew, and we can't have that. So you get both sides of it. You go, okay, this is good stuff. We stretch lines. We know that, hey, this 3rd-story apartment, we can't reach if we go in this door. So what is our tactic? So then we can get into, are we going to do a soft standpipe? Or are we going to do a leader line apartment lay? We can get into those conversations. And I think by doing that, you engage your crews and your guys to take the opportunities to think, well, okay, well, what are my options here? So like I said, it can be a positive or a negative reaction to it.
Do your guys lay a supply line on these calls, or do you wait?
Typically we wait. Just like you said earlier, getting back in service is usually a priority. So usually we do wait. My new drivers, I try to encourage them to spot hydrants at minimum. So we have different options for our hydrants. We have a 35-foot front intake. We have a side 35-foot intake, and then we have our LDH off the back. So I always encourage them to spot hydrants, look at the geography of what we're going into. Is there cars around? Is there some obstacles that we need to overcome? And then, we try to encourage that. Every once in a while, we will tag hydrants. I'll just tell my driver, say, hey, let's tag this hydrant this time, because it gets us out into the mindset of, okay, my driver hasn't tagged a hydrant in a long time. What is the process? Do I know where my tools are? Can I do it efficiently? Can he tag that hydrant within 30 seconds or not? It's just taking those opportunities when we have them to be proactive in our training.
I think there's a difference here between going on a run in a place where you've had a million false alarms and it's likely to be a bad one again, and a call that's an alarm box, but it's at a place you're not typically going to. Mm-hmm. So I think probably then that you have a different mindset when you're going to the latter, where you're thinking, all right, this could be the real thing, so we're going to prep for it.
We all know what normal alarm drops look like compared to not normal alarm drops. And again, it's about trying to not get in that complacency mindset. Every alarm should be taken seriously, but it happens because we do go on quite a few alarm drops. But yeah, like if we start seeing 2 or 3 risers, or if we see multiple smoke alarms or heat alarms going off, or heat sensors going off, or pull station with additional smoke alarm activations, that will rise our interest and kind of, okay, guys, this could be something this time, and we need to start thinking, a little bit more beyond than what we, most crews typically do. Go, all right, here we go again. Let's hopefully the first engine or truck will take care of this and we get back in service. When we see those signs of multiple drops or something that we're not familiar with, a building that we're not familiar with, it should raise your awareness to, okay, this isn't normal. So what's going on? Because it could be something, or could it not be?
When you guys get a food on the stove type call where somebody calls in and says they've got a fire, but you get there and realize from your size up that it's not rooming contents, it's maybe just food on the stove. Do you at that point go into full action and pull a line and start to prep for it being a rooming contents fire?
Typically not. On our dispatch, we have an investigation alarm or a commercial fire alarm, residential fire alarm, and then we have a cooking appliance, which means, a cooking fire, oven fire, something like that. So when it gets dispatched as a cooking appliance, that typically means that it is a cooking fire, but it hasn't extended typically. So usually when we get in those situations, if we don't have anything showing, my first thinking as the officer is I need to mitigate this as quick as possible. So we just grab our water can, which the firefighter is responsible for if he's not grabbing the line, and we go investigate and mitigate the problem as quickly as we can. If we get called for, a commercial fire alarm or commercial fire, then we will pull a line proactively if we know where the fire is or the fire apartment. Otherwise, we still want to go and investigate because we don't want to pull a line to the wrong place.
Right, because that would waste even more time.
Absolutely. So, in those situations, we will grab a can and me and my firefighter will go investigate if I'm first in. If not, if the truck is first in or one of the other engines is first in, we'll stand by with a hydrant and or we will get ready to deploy a line to the location of the fire.
So this whole concept sounds pretty smart, but my question is, have you found a way to quantify, at least in your own mind, that it's working, that it's getting people up to speed faster, keeping them from becoming complacent?
Yeah, that's the whole idea behind this concept. And like I said, this is definitely not department wide for my department. And like I said, it's kind of hit or miss if we do it or not. It's just something that we can do to encourage you guys to start thinking that way. This is all based on the recency effect, or recency theory is pretty obvious on what that means. Things that you've done more recently, you're going to be more proficient and quicker at doing those. If I force a door 10 times, I'm going to be more efficient than somebody that hasn't forced a door in 10 weeks or 10 years, right? So it's about doing things that you're going to be more apt to do in the real world and therefore be able to accomplish that task quickly. So quantifiably, we don't have any data. We do in my department, assessment-based training is what it's called, that, we pull lines twice a year that's timed. So it's pull a line, deploy the line, and mask up, and there's different metrics to that. And that we do notice the more you train, the quicker you become. So this would be the same thing. You know, if we roll up to a fire alarm, how quick can you deploy line? How quick can you get off the truck and tag a hydrant? How long does it take to set the aerial up? You know, what are my moves? If I can take my movements and limit them as much as possible, you know, we're going to be quicker. And we only know that by doing. Pulling lines is pretty simple, but yeah, it's the most basic thing we do. And some guys are not good at it. So if we can deploy lines, you know, how far do I need to pull it up on my shoulder? How many steps does it take for me to step back, reach back, pull the loop, you know, and advance up? You know, it gets them better at judging distances to doors if we're deploying to an outside door. So I think, you know, there's nothing quantifiable, but I think you can see it in performance, right? Because performance is the ultimate test of how we do in our training abilities.
Yeah, so among your guys, are the more experienced or the less experienced the ones who have the most trouble wanting to do this?
I think it's hit or miss. You're going to have the senior guys that are 100% bought into the department, and then you're going to have the guys that are, you know, just coasting. And that's, you know, they always say within an organization, you're going to have the top 10%, and in that 10%, you're going to have the top 1%. The 1% are your go-getters, you know, the guys that are always out there doing stuff, very proactive. You know, then you have the 10% that are into the job. They're going to do what they need to do, go above and beyond a little bit, you know, take pride in it. Then you're going to have the mass majority, which is going to be, you know, your next 80%. And they're just going to do what they're supposed to do. You know, it's not going out there and, you know, being proactive about things, taking pride, you know, researching, reading, stuff like that. But they're going to do what they're supposed to do. They're going to get their trainings done. They're going to check their trucks in. You know, there's going to be good employees. And then you always have that bottom 10% that don't want to be there. They're there for the paycheck. And that's okay. As leaders, we need to be okay with that, because you're not going to get everybody on board. And when we see that in our organization, it can be mixed. You know, we can have new guys come in and not necessarily be all into the job. You know, we try to motivate that a little bit and build that up through our culture and through mindset and through trainings. But that just can't be the case. Typically, if I had to guess or make an estimate, typically it is the junior guys that are more energetic to do this stuff, because, you know, we all become firefighters to do firefighter stuff. Pull lines, throw ladders, that's what we want to do. So usually it's those guys that are very eager. You know, they want to catch their first fire. They want to be good at this, and this is what their life is now. You know, and hopefully we can retain that over their career. But most of the time, you know, you do see a little bit of a drop off, and that's okay. You can't be 100% all the time. I've learned that in my career. You know, I first started and it was go, right? But pretty soon you're gonna get humbled a few times. Like, okay, it can't be 100% go all the time, but you need to know when to kick it in and do what you need to do.
All right, Ty Wheeler, thanks for talking with me on Code 3 today.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
I think Ty has a point here. If you always respond to calls the same way, complacency becomes a non-issue. Still, I know a lot of firefighters are going to go back to the wasted time argument. So what do you think? You can leave your comments on our website at code3podcast.com/laddersup. All one word, ladders up. There's a link to more resources there as well. And remember, if you like Code 3, I'd like you to tell a friend. That's a cliche, but it's true. Podcast audiences grow best through word of mouth. So tell somebody else in your firehouse about Code 3. Let them know it's only about 20 minutes long and it might have something useful for them too. I'd appreciate it, and it'll help the audience grow. All right, that's it. That's all for this edition of Code 3. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next time with more. I sure hope you'll join me. I'm Scott Orr, and until then, stay safe.
To contact us, get more information on today's show, or to subscribe to the podcast, go to code3podcast.com.